Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we have a mission to wake the world up to what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the amazing authors of a new book that we have coming out. This one is called Rites and Rituals: Harnessing the Power of Sacred Ceremony. And before I introduce these amazing, powerful women to you today, I want to say a humongous thank you to Ariana Platten, who is our lead author for Rites and Rituals. Ariana, I know you've heard me say this before, but this was a big mission and a big vision for this beautiful, powerful book. And I'm so honored to be guiding this with you and getting these amazing stories and tools, life-changing tools out into the world. I just want to say thank you for being here. You know, we wouldn't be here without you, and thank you for that mission. And wait till you guys hear about this topic. I have Milagros Ruiz Bello with us. She comes from a lineage of healers, and she's combined her 25 years of musical experience with some of her healing modalities, which include energy healing, chakra balancing, sound healing, drum healing, and chanting. And through these modalities, she helps people start their healing journey and elevate to their highest vibrations in this lifetime. I have Tina Green with us. She's a life coach who assists women to love their bodies and themselves by exposing the roots of their shame so healing can happen. And Shenna Lee Belmore is an intuitive and compassionate guide to healing on all levels. She owns and operates Mountain Healing Center in Woodland Park, Colorado, where she offers a vast variety of alternative healing modalities, all to lead one to the doorway of full health. I do have some powerful healers in my Zoom room today, you guys, and I can't wait to share them with you. So, Millie, you're going to start us off today. I always call you Millie because I think you introduced me as we got introduced to each other, and you said Millie. I want to make sure that you're okay with that.
I'm fine with that.
Oh, good. Okay. Tell us about your amazing chapter.
I go into plant medicine. I speak about plant medicine and the fact that I didn't want to lose control, and that was always my fear, losing control. And there are different plant medicines and sacred rituals that go along with plant healing. And this doesn't always involve psychedelic plant medicine. It also involves just simple herbs such as chamomile, lavender, etc. And this in turn helps us discover our true roots, not the culture that was brought to us from the Europe, right? But our true roots, our indigenous roots.
When you began to write about this topic, we had a couple of conversations, and I remember that you were maybe a little worried about actually talking about the plant medicine. I feel like you have completely gotten over that worry, and you understand that you're giving people a gift by showing them the possibilities, right? But why the plant medicine for you? What personally was important about that?
My great-grandmother practiced the herbal teachings of the Aztecs. She was a curandera, which is a healer. She was also a midwife. She was often called a bruja, which is a witch, which in the Latin American cultures also is often viewed as a negative. But what people don't understand, that being a witch doesn't necessarily mean that you're working with black magic. Do we need to understand some of it? Yes, of course we do. We need to be familiar with it. But oftentimes the witches in our culture work with love and light, and if you will call him God, Great Spirit, higher source. So for me, working with plant medicine, especially Los Niños Santos, which is the mushrooms, connected me with Pachamama, which is directly connected to higher source. And it's a beautiful communication of energies that we're actually all part of, but we've been conditioned to view it as a negative. We've been conditioned to view it as evil by many organized religions. I'm not saying not to believe in God. I'm not saying not to read your Bible. But oftentimes the want and need for greed or control is often used against our higher purpose, which is to really connect as a collective and really heal instead of being stuck in a 40-hour work week and living at a low vibration. Once we start to connect with Mother Earth, everything just makes so much sense and is clearer. And that's what it was for me.
I love that. I wrote down, plant medicine. What a beautiful way to talk about it. Plant medicine, a beautiful communication of energy. I mean, really, there's so many ways that we can talk about the different modalities. You guys, thank you all for not just for saying yes to the project, but for stepping up with those authentic stories. And then, just talking to our viewers today, this book is a collection of powerful practices. In any single one of the chapters, you're being given a gift and a practice that you can practice right there from the pages of the book and have a change. That really was a mission of mine, a big mission to be able to teach you all. Millie, thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Tina, tell us about your amazing chapter.
Well, hello. Thank you, Laura. My chapter is chapter 20. I married myself, a ceremony of self-love, commitment, and integration. And in my chapter, I write about the journey, the healing journey that I took over the course of many years to lift the shame I was carrying around with me. I carried a lot of shame and it held me back in so many different ways. But my biggest shame was shame around my body. And I went through a really powerful healing journey to lift that shame. And, part of lifting that shame is also the realization. Part of the healing that I received was learning the idea that to stop looking outside of myself for love, happiness, fulfillment, and approval, and really turning that and looking and getting that from within. And that was a really powerful part of my healing journey. So when I went in, and that healing journey included so many rites and rituals and ceremonies that were really powerful. And so when I went to do this ceremony, the ceremony of marrying myself and making that ultimate commitment to myself, it was so powerful because it was really, for me, acknowledging that my biggest commitment is to me above everything else. And really going through and searching my soul. I write about this in my chapter. Searching my soul to write my vows was harder than I thought it was going to be, because we're so trained, especially as women, to look outside of ourselves for everything and to put ourselves last. So that was a big exercise in itself. And then to go through the ceremony and make the commitment to me in front of witnesses in a sacred place was so powerful. And still to this day, it keeps me on that path of healing. It keeps me in that love that I felt at the time. And so, one of the quotes from my chapter says, "This ceremony is my most significant commitment. After all the healing and transformation I've experienced, this is an affirmation of unconditional love from within and an eternal commitment to my soul. These are my new roots." And so it helped me rewrite my story. It helped me put that chapter at the end and rewrite my story. So yeah,
These are
that's
my
my chapter.
new roots. I love that. I
Yeah.
love the feeling of that. And not
Mm-hmm.
to mention that this beautiful place is the place that you can then serve from with your overflow,
Yes.
which is
Yes.
so like, you know, the world changes because you did that foundation work first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you give from this place that has just got such a more powerful energy to it. Anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, and it's a it's perfect because it does feed what I do now and how I coach women to love themselves, because I do serve from that. And um it infiltrates everything I do at this point. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the lead author, Ariana Platten, and I love this ceremony so much that later, after the book is released later on in the spring, we're going to get together and do a whole workshop around this. So I'm excited about that and give the opportunity for other people to experience it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tina, for being here.
Yeah.
Shenna,
Thank you, Laura.
tell us about your amazing chapter.
Hi, I'm Shenna Lee Belmore, and my chapter in the book is number 15. And the title of my chapter is Who Am I Really? Gathering the Fertile Soil of Authentic Self.
Tell me more.
Okay.
Tell me, so, we want to really feel the why behind your chapter. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, to sum up my story, it's like a huge part of my life was I was adopted as a baby. And so through the years, I'd find out some different bits and pieces through my adopted family who knew my birth mother, apparently. And it led me down this path of trying to figure out who I was, because there really wasn't anybody to ask at some point, when I got older. I did get to meet my birth mother, but she was gone, and nobody else seemed to know like what her roots were. So I had even at some point had taken a DNA test, and I had lived most of my life dancing at Native American gatherings and ceremony and doing a lot of those things. And it came from my heart. Well, then when I did the DNA test, I was all over the place. There was just a trace of Native American. And so this led me on taking a journey back up to Ohio, where I was born. And my chapter is about that journey, where I would go and connect with different places that I had went to as a child and never really understood, why those specific places. And I had been led to feel that I had Shawnee Native heritage, some, via my father, who I never got to meet or know anything about. Well, anyhow, each one of these places that I went to, I gathered soil, and I created a ceremony with my drum and singing and listening and burning sage and herbs, to the 4 directions. And during that journey, I found out that the Shawnee had actually encamped on the grounds everywhere that I had been to gather my soil. Somehow I intuitively went back there, but then I found out that the Shawnee actually had been there, had lived there, and many had died there. One of the places that I talked about in my chapter was the last place I gathered soil was this old ancient cemetery outside of the town where I lived. And I actually took the tour when I was on that trip of that property, and found out that indeed during the war, Shawnee had lived and died on those grounds. The person that owned it, Colonel Johnson, was an Indian helper. I can't think of the word right now, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, his Indian agent, and he had invited over 1,600 Shawnee to stay on that land during the war to keep them safe. So it was just an amazing journey. And I know I've talked to a lot of people in what I do that really question who they are. And so that was why I came up with the chapter to share my journey, so that other people that are questioning how to find their roots and who they were could have an easily accessible way to do that for themselves.
I think there's such power in what you created. And I've talked to other people who literally traveled to places. Not that you have to travel, because there are
Right.
ways, right? So what else do you want to say about that, just so people understand that piece?
You know, to make it easily accessible, it's like, I mean, there's no limit. It's like, you know, our imagination could take us to different places, but for me, it's like so powerful to just have that intention. And you can, you know, step outside your door and sit in your own backyard and gather that soil and hold it and create your own ritual. You know, if people don't have sage, sweetgrass, tobacco, I mean, they can, you know, take a strand of hair and offer it to the earth, or just simply say a prayer and give thanks to the ancestors and listen, you know, listen for guidance. To me, I think that was one of the most powerful parts of my journey, was that pause. You know, each place that I went and each experience that I had in creating that ritual was to just stop and listen. And so it's you know, very easy to modify. You know, like you just said, people don't have to travel all over the world or back to where they were actually born. They can just sit where they are with intention and listen.
Thank you, Shenna. Thank you for being here. Let's keep talking about this a little bit. And Tina, I'm going to go to you first with this next question. So recently, I was telling you guys a little bit about this before we started the interviews. I've noticed and been studying kind of the profound effect that sacred ritual can have. And I've noticed it in my own life. It's not just those big events that we think of for a ceremony, like a wedding or a funeral. It can be in the purposeful intention that you put into your morning cup of coffee. It can be small, you know? So, Tina, what has sacred ceremony or ritual meant in your personal day-to-day life, maybe in a smaller way?
Yeah. I mean, I think ceremony and ritual is so powerful because it's experiential and it involves the body. You know, it's not just your brain, your whole body gets involved in the process. So for me, one of the daily rituals that I have is every morning when it comes out, I greet the sun. And I learned this from a Peruvian shaman, and I greet the sun and I greet the day with all of my love. And I just do a little prayer every single morning, and that really is an intention that sets up my day to have the good energy and the vibes that I want. And when I do that, I take the sun into my whole body, and it really just everything that I'm praying for and intending becomes part of my body. It's not just something I'm thinking, right? And it's really powerful.
Very. You're making me smile when I have the gift that I have gone for a walk just before sunrise. And so the sky is lightening, but the sun is just coming. I have a funny ritual. If I get to see that day, then the song is "Here Comes the Sun." You guys know that song?
Mhm.
And I love being in that energy, and make your greet the sun makes me remember that. That is awesome. Shenna, how about you? What has that ritual meant in your personal daily life?
It really took me back to, you know, I remember years ago reading in a book, Neil Donald Walsh had written in Conversations with God. He had an interview, and they're like, you must meditate all the time. He said, except for when I don't. And you must pray all the time. And he said, except for when I don't. And so, that stuck with me. So I didn't make myself wrong. Sometimes, I'd get away from it. But, when I relived that journey through writing this chapter, it really took me back to how powerful it was to do ceremony, no matter how simple or how involved it may be. And I start my day by giving thanks for all the joy and beauty that there has been laid before me to find and tap into. And then it's like magic. It just opens up a whole world. And looking out at the sun, looking at nature, looking at the plants or the beauty that may be around my surroundings wherever I am, and tapping into that energy, and it just zaps you right up. And so for me, that's, like I said, that writing that chapter really took me back to being really consistent with that. And one of the things I loved hearing before was, may my every step be a holy prayer this day. And so tapping into that beauty and that joy of everything, because it's there if we just open to it.
Yes. With awareness, we have that choice every step, which is really a powerful thing to think about. Probably one of my favorite topics ever. Thank you, Shanna. Millie, how about you? What do you want to say about how ritual has shown up in your day-to-day?
Well, I'm a night owl, so I don't see the sunrise very often. For me, it's being grateful for even the simplest things. As I take my dog out for a walk, I notice snails, I'll notice birds. There's this one particular bird, it looks like a canary, but it's black and white. And every time I go out, he'll come out and he'll chirp and he'll sit on a post somewhere, and I notice it. Hummingbirds, I mean, squirrels. And mind you, I live in California in the city, so we don't have a lot of wildlife. As far as the sun and the moon, I have a strong connection to the moon, and the sunsets to me are so beautiful, because just like the sunrises, the sunsets, as the sun is going down and you're standing there receiving the sun's energy as it's setting and the moon's coming up, you can feel the energies. I think for me, I actually feel more connected to nature, even living in a city. And that to me, just making me aware, has brought so much peace into my life.
I love that. Yes, the power of the moon and the sun. And honestly, all of you are just making me want to remind everybody that your attention to a moment like the sunset can be a ritual. And it could be just that simple. And it's really the presence that you practice in any moment, right? Yeah, just so powerful. I want to come around to all of you with this next question about your inner wisdom. You all practice connecting at, I think, other levels. You have made a lifetime's worth of practice out of how to connect very powerfully. And we author expert people like to talk about ourselves more as guides and facilitators on this journey. We know that we don't fix people. We know that nothing's broken. But we attempt, I think, to empower others to connect with their own inner wisdom, and that's how we guide. So, Shanna, I'm going to start with you on this one. What do you want to share with our viewers today about that connection to their own inner wisdom?
I think going back to what I said earlier about that pause, to just stop in a moment and breathe in the beauty around you. I mean, even if you're in a house, it's like you can just stop and breathe with the beauty of a painting or a vase or even your coffee cup. And so that stopping and just breathing in that beauty for me was how I started connecting. And, you know, a lot of times people say they can't meditate and they can't, you know, they can't stop. But that breath, you know, taking that deep breath fully in and then releasing and just sitting with any different thing, you can just breathe in that beauty. And to me, that's the easiest way for anybody to just stop and be able to connect. It is powerful, and as you've said, very, very simple to create a ceremony in that moment with any given thing and ground yourself out to just open to listen and be connected.
I love that you just talked about people who say that they can't stop, you know, that they're basically saying to you, I don't know how to stop my mind. I don't know how to pause. And I just want you guys to hear, you know, what Shenna is saying about that. Just pay attention to one deep breath. And that can be the way that you paused. And hey, you did it, right? I think we could all do that for one breath. But we all know some days are harder than others. Yeah.
Exactly. But it is possible. And not making yourself wrong and not giving up is the basic key to it.
Yes, exactly. I love that. Millie, what do you want to add about this in terms of helping people connect with that inner wisdom?
The unseen truth, that's the name of my chapter 16. For a lot of us, we've been conditioned to fear the unknown, to fear the darkness, to fear many, many things. And along this journey, I've learned not to fear, to go into fear with curiosity. And it'll shift your way of thinking and receiving the information. I don't consider myself a fixer either. That's one of the things that I truly pride myself in. Not telling you what to do, but guiding you into following your own intuition, because we all have it. We all have it. And if we just sit still, for me, it's usually 3 breaths to pause, take 3 breaths, and just be in the moment. So all I can tell you is that when you start practicing just being in a moment, such as Shauna shared, and just taking a breath and being in the moment, that's a starting point into learning about your own intuition, because we all have it. I can go on and on about the subject, but I'm not going to, because then I start getting, you know, thrown off into talking about the way we've been conditioned to think. And, you know, I get really passionate about that stuff.
Yes, it's important. And I think that when people hear that, then they kind of wake up to, oh, what was I conditioned to think and believe about this subject? Any of these questions, ladies, I know we could be here for 3 hours on any one of them. They're so juicy. These topics are so big. And so just take that one little nugget today, anyone who is listening, that one little nugget that made you think differently and be curious. And Millie hit on something that I am very passionate about. Just curiosity, that awareness tool will change everything. So Tina, on this one, how about you? What do you want to add to this conversation about helping people connect to that inner wisdom?
Yeah, I want to echo what Millie and Shanna and you have said that it starts off small, you know, just taking small little steps. And I believe it also in what you said, everything begins with awareness. So I'll just give an example, because I don't know that there's anything I can add to what has already been said, but an example of something that I like to do, and I actually got one of my teenage daughters to start doing it, is in the morning when I'm getting ready and I'm, you know, in front of the mirror and I brush my hair, I pause for a minute and put my hands on my chest, and I just look at myself in the mirror and I say, I love you. And then I smile, usually. And it's amazing to just notice how my face softens when I say I love you, and how different I look. And it's just like the whole process takes me like 5 to 10 seconds, but it is like, it feels so good. And I'm just like, there are so many little things like that you can do, just to kind of start your awareness and start really going within to, you know, to get that feeling, you know,
Yes.
and have a daily ritual.
But wait, you got your teenage daughter to do anything?
Yes, I did. I got her, like when she puts on her makeup, because she's really into experimenting with makeup right now, to look in the mirror and say, I love you. And
it's pretty big.
I know.
It's hard for adults to do mirror work,
Yeah,
let
yeah.
alone a teenager, let alone a teenage girl to be able to do that.
Mhm.
So kudos to you. And I think we model all the time, and no matter
Yeah.
what we're doing, right? So that's super important. We talked about in the last interview a little bit about our kids and the community that we are raising them in, and how important these topics are for our children and everybody who's watching, you know. Yeah, ladies, thank you. Milagros, Ruiz, Bello, Tina Green, Shanna Lee, Belmore. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for what you do in the world and for being here today to share it with everyone.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Laura.
So I know you all heard something today that maybe gave you the goosebumps or it made you curious. So please scroll on down to the show notes where I have our authors hooked up with their websites. Go explore the amazing things that they are up to. They are very generously there for you to continue this conversation, answer a question, give you the next step of support. And it's a huge mission of mine to move beyond the book that we're creating, to give you a community so that it doesn't stop at the chapters. And please go explore. You'll be amazed. I know you will. So you're also invited, of course, to our book launch party. That's going to happen February 18th at 10 a.m. Eastern. We're going to gather with all of the Rites and Rituals authors, and we'll be doing some fun giveaways. You can find the Zoom info on the Brave Healer Productions Facebook page, which is hooked up down below as well. And if you happen to be listening to us after that February date today, that means you can just hop on over to Amazon and grab your copy of this beautiful book. And lastly, today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.